All right, shalom and good afternoon, boys. Here, well, yeah, it's something I wanted to talk about right quick, and that is integrity. Are you a man or woman of integrity? And you know, what is integrity? It basically means that you have a strong moral and value system. You have a strong stance on you know right from wrong and how you deal with matters, especially in times of adversity, because that's when uh, your character, your moral, your values, your systems of ethics, your self dignity and your self worth, and your ability to have respect for yourself and look in the mirror and say, am I looking at a real man? Because at the end of the day, people know if they lack integrity. I don't care whether or not what they tell anybody or what they portray. At the end of the day, you know who you are when you look in the mirror. You know if you're a coward, or you know if you are a man of honor and integrity, and that is best found again in times of adversity. And one of the deepest test that I've had is when I got fired from a job. I was working, and I told this story, but it's important, especially in the hour that we're living in, especially in the days and times that we're living in. Where I was a part of a team of implementation managers, and I used to notice that they used to, invite you out to drinks after work and stuff like that. And I was never really the type to, participate in that behavior, even though sometimes I used to do it, but it wasn't my thing. My goal was to, get there, do the job in which I was hired to do, and go home to my family, go home and do whatever I wanted to do, whether I was single or if, when I was settled down. That was my goal, to go and do my job, and that's what I was there for. I wasn't there for anything else. But anybody that's been on a job or had a career, that you have those people that do their job, and then there's others, and they're always huddled around the boss, and they're always laughing at the jokes the jokes of the boss. They're always kissing the boss's ass. They're always kissing up, thinking that it's gonna get them something, and it ain't gonna really get them anything at all. We all know those types of individuals, and I can spot those kinds of individuals from a mile away. And so I wasn't one of them type of individuals, and my boss, he picked up on it, and it started giving me a hard time and stuff, and finally we got into a little tidbit, and he started giving me reviews, saying that my work wasn't good, or my work wasn't good. It was never a review or a complaint from a client on an account I was on. It was always based on something that I was doing within the office. And so, the name of the game was, first and foremost, was to stay clear, do my job, but that wasn't working. And, I never forget the advice that I got from a VP, a senior VP. He was there, and, he noticed what was going on. And, he pulled me to the side, and, he sat me down, because he was his manager, but it was like kind of weird in terms of the structure. But he said, the advice that he kind of gave was, you understand, just it was basically, play the game. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I said, nah, and at this point in time, I just now had my son. I just had my son, And you're in a situation. I got my firstborn son. I got a mortgage to pay. I got bills, and I got this child, and I can't lose this job because I need it. I need it to survive. Uh, and so, of course, I made the decision to no, I'm not. I don't care what the situation is. I'm not gonna be bowing down and stepping, fetching and kissing this man's ass, even if it's gonna cost me my job. And anybody that can really understand that knows what that's when your integrity is on the line. That's when you know that you're a man of honor and integrity. That's when when it's all on the line. And so it worked out fine for me. I did end up getting fired, but I did get my unemployment. That's what I was concerned about. And let me tell you, during the 3 or 4 months that ordeal went along, because they just couldn't just fire me. You know what I'm saying? So he had to make up excuses and make up, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. Well, you're better here, but you're not better there. And I knew it would go that way. And I knew the reason why they were doing that, or he was doing that, is because they didn't want to pay me my unemployment. But again, they had to pay me my unemployment. They had to, give me my little, whatever little vacation time or whatever that they had to pay me out on and stuff. And it worked out fine. But, I knew I made the personal decision a very long time ago that, listen, I'm not going to be that kind of man, even if it's going to cost me. And this is why I'm so passionate about, being self-sufficient and making sure that, I'm not dependent on somebody else for their paycheck. Because, when you're dependent on somebody else for your livelihood, oof, they can pretty much do anything to you. And a lot of people, like the people I work with, they what they do is they, hey, they bow down and they stepped and fetched and they kiss ass and they did what they had to do. And at the end of the day, those people are those people. But there's a rare breed of people that are willing to go against winning tide, to say, no, this is wrong. No, this is not, I'm not going to do that, and deal with the consequences. Because at the end of the day, when you're in a job and they have power over you. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Like the borrower is the servant, the lender, and it's hey, they're borrowing your time, and they're giving you money. It's just the same. It's the same kind of slavery. They're just giving you a little paycheck, enough to pay your bills, go on a little vacation or whatever, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be a man, a woman of integrity, because if you don't, then people gonna walk all over you. And it's, for me, it's just back then, and even more so now, it won't be accepted. It will not be accepted. So it's gonna cost you to stand up, to stand 10 toes down in situations. But you gotta do it. You gotta do it, because at the end of the day, you gotta look yourself in the mirror. You gotta look and say, you know what? I'm a man. Am I a man of integrity? I'm a man of honor. Or am I a coward? And I tell you, it's sad. The sad truth is that many people, they're cowards, especially in this day and age. Which one are you?